Ajita, you're muted.
Sorry. Welcome everyone to this wonderful meeting of Tigertales Toastmasters. I would like to welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Chitra, to take us through this meeting.
Thank you, Ajita. Welcome, everybody. We have been seeing a change these days. Changes have been happening more often than ever now. What we thought was normal has changed, and now we have turned the term new normal, and we've been trying to get accustomed to that. When I was working few years back in project management, one aspect that fascinated me was a sprint retrospective meeting. What they did there was all the stakeholders meet every 2 weeks once and they give feedback on how they perform for 2 weeks. The biggest thing I liked over there was the start, stop, and continue bucket. So they have 3 different buckets. So what is something they did not like and they didn't want to pursue after that? That goes into the stop bucket. What is something that was a big problem and they want to have a new tradition out of it? That goes into the start bucket. And what is something they're doing well on that they should keep continuing goes into the continue bucket. These start buckets are always focusing on how to provide solution to new problems. That's a system we unknowingly or knowingly use also in our days. When we find a problem, we are like, okay, we should solve this by bringing a change in our lives. And that's how we have been using this system. We have a system over here in Toastmasters today here. We have the prepared speeches section at the start to help you understand and evaluate what the speaker wants to tell you and give a message out of that. Then you have the table topic session where you come in unprepared and talk whatever topic the table topics master gives you on the day. That gives you some chaos in our order life. Then there's the evaluation section. What can you continue on? What should you be stopping? What should you be continuing? And what should you be starting? Which helps us all improve, not just the speaker alone. We have a set of functionaries who will help us to keep track of all the things we have to be doing. We have a timer, an hour counter, and a grammarian. Let me introduce you Minshu, who is the timer of the day, who will be telling us about the timing rules for today. Welcome, Minshu.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. In our first part, prepared speeches, each speaker have 5 to 7 minutes to give speech. When 5 minutes have passed, I will show the green picture on my phone. When 6 minutes have passed, I will show yellow picture. When you run out of the 7 minutes, I will show the red picture. Then you have 30 seconds to give your speech. As for educational moments, you have 2 to 3 minutes to give your speech. When 2 minutes have passed, I will show the green picture. When 2 minutes and 30 seconds have passed, I will show the yellow picture. When you run out of the 3 minutes, I will show the red picture. Then you have 30 seconds to give your speech. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Minshu. Another functionary we have today is our hour counter, Destin. Let's hear from Destin what he'll be looking for today.
Hi, everyone. So I am today's hour counter, and my role will be to pay attention to and note overused words, interjections, and filler sounds like her. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Destin. Let's hear from our grammarian Grant what he is looking for today.
Hello, everyone. I will be the grammarian, and I'll be looking out for interesting or noteworthy uses of grammar. That might be great uses of grammar, or that might be grammar that I think could use some improvement. I'll also be looking out for the word of the day, which today is going to be enlightened. I'm going to make this a little bit more difficult and not let enlighten work. It has to have the ED at the end, enlightened, as per the agenda that it was sent out. And that is used exclusively as an adjective. And it's going to have two definitions that I'll tell you all. The first one is freed from ignorance and misinformation. Or the second one is showing understanding, acting in a positive way, and not following old-fashioned or false beliefs. Now, an example sentence using that word is, after listening to Bhakti's speech the other day about the history of anime, I felt a little more enlightened about the topic.
Thank you, Grant. That's from the functionaries. Now let's go to the first section of our prepared speeches. We have 3 speakers today and 3 evaluators who will be evaluating these speakers. The first speaker for the session is Preetham. I asked Preetham what was one change he brought in his life that would be helpful for us also to incorporate in our life. He said earlier he used to be scrolling through Facebook emails at the start of the day, and now he's taking time for himself and meditating and exercising, which allows him to gather his thoughts and set intention for the day. I have been struggling through this as well, to set a order in my life. Hopefully I can learn from him today. And evaluating him is Matt. Let's hear from Matt and what he's about, what he's looking in Preetham's speech.
All right, good evening, everybody. I will be evaluating Preetham's speech. This is from the Innovative Planning Pathway. It's level 4. And the goal of this project is to effectively manage a project, develop rapport with stakeholders, and cultivate strong relationships within a team. This speech is only 2 to 3 minutes and outlines the purpose of the project, the resources he'll need, budget and key deliverables, and milestones. And that's a lot of words, but Preetham's really moving along in this pathway, and I look forward to hearing how he's going to approach this project. So this is, and again, 2 to 3 minutes. It's a bit shorter.
Thank you, Matt. Let's all welcome Preetham. Mentorship in Pathways, Preetham.
Hello, everyone. Like Chitra said at the beginning of the meeting, everything is changing. Before, when we met someone at Toastmasters, we would ask people, how are you doing? Now, when we start speaking, the first thing we ask, can you hear me? Things are changing. And even before this online meeting and everything happened, Toastmasters had started changing. About 2 years back, when people joined Toastmasters, they were given only 2 books. One is this Competent Communicator Manual, and another one is the Competent Leadership Manual. There were 2 education tracks, a communication track and a leadership track. It was very simple. Anybody joined Toastmasters got access to these 2 books, nothing else. Now things have changed. The education in Toastmasters has become more individualized. Now, when someone joins Toastmasters, they have access and choice to choose from 26 different pathways. So, what has changed for that is our approach to mentorship. The real crux of mentorship remains the same for Toastmasters. It's helping a member successfully grow and become successful in their speaking and leadership goals. But how we approach that has changed for Pathways, and that is the proposal for my innovative planning project that I want to do. My proposal for the project that I want to do as part of my Pathways innovative planning, it's a level 4 project, and it's to develop a process for mentorship in Pathways. The process will involve how to find out a member's goals and align that with the Toastmasters education program and see that the member is properly inducted and everything that needs to happen as a part of Pathways. Whether the mentor has chosen a path or not, how can the mentor ensure that in the Pathways program, the mentor is moving forward towards their success? The resources that I need for this project is the executive committee, which I am a part of, and I'm sure they will be glad to help me. There is no monetary resources required for this project, and the timeline I request for doing this project is 2 weeks. The first milestone will be my delivery of the initial process framework to the executive committee next week, and 2 weeks from now, I'll be developing the final process with the help of the executive committee. So that is my report for and proposal for the Pathways Innovative Planning project that I want to develop a process for mentorship in Pathways. The key resources that I need is the executive committee. There is no monetary requirement, and the timeline I am requesting for this project is 2 weeks. With that, I complete my proposal for my Pathways project and hand it back to our Toastmaster of the day, Chitra.
Thank you, Preetham. Oh, am I audible to guys? Okay. My screen just froze for a second. Let's all take 1 minute to give feedback to Preetham on what you thought on how his speech was. I guess that's a minute. Our next speaker is Lobanilla. And I asked him what was one change that he bought in that has impacted his life. And he said reading books has helped him to change his mindset about life. And he's going to use that reference in his speech. Let's hear from Ajita more about what he's working on.
Lou Bonilla is working on the motivational strategies pathway, and this is his elective 3 project, which is titled Connect with Storytelling. So he will be using a story to connect with the audience, and the speech title is the Power of Connection. I look forward to hearing your story, Lou.
The Power of Connection, Lobanilla. You're muted.
What do you think one of the most powerful resources in the world is? Some would say it's money, power. 3 months ago, people would have even said it's toilet paper. But no, it's not any of these things. One of the most compelling forces in the world today is human connection. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. It's not an understatement to say that we are living in unprecedented times when we have so much need, a time when we're dealing with huge issues. But a dilemma that is silently affecting many of us is loneliness. This is a topic I've been contemplating for several months now. I recently finished reading this book by former Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek Murthy, entitled Together, the Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World. In his time as Surgeon General, he sought to talk to thousands of Americans seeking their health concerns. And time again, this issue of loneliness came up. What's amazing about this research is that many people on the outside, they may seem like they have thriving social lives, whether it be a strong, significant other, having a family, or even a successful career with great network connections. But at the end of the day, they go home and still feel lonely. Many times they may not even be aware of it. I believe this is a timely time to discuss this topic after months of social distancing. And what's ironic about me preparing the speech and giving it now is that I just got out of a 14-day quarantine as I traveled to Florida to visit my friends and family. And as I returned, I couldn't even live in my own house to protect my roommates. I lived in a friend's empty rental house, not be able to see my loved ones and friends. So I had to face my own loneliness during that time. My hope for this talk for you is to be aware that there's different types of loneliness that can affect us, but human connection can be a powerful force to not only help us be connected, but to aid in that loneliness. I recently, when I finished reading this book, I realized that there's three different types of loneliness. The first one is intimate emotional. This is this need to have this close life partner, a confidant that you share your deepest thoughts and fears. The second one is relational social. It's this need to have close-knit friends to depend on no matter what is happening in your life. And lastly, it's collective. It's this need for a network or a community of people that are part of this bigger goal, this purpose that you have. So if any of these areas have a need or are lacking, they could trigger loneliness. And I know personally because there was a time in my life when I was lacking in all three. It was 2008. And I recently was graduating college, 2 years out of my bachelor's degree, was living at home with my mother, not confident that what I went to college for is what I wanted to pursue. And I felt lost in my direction in life. And what compounded that feeling was having undiagnosed Crohn's disease, which is a disease that affects many Americans. But at that time, I didn't know what was going on with my body. It was so much pain in my body. And I can honestly say it was probably one of the most loneliest times of my life. But it was then that I reconnected with an old college friend, high school friend, I should say. Some of you know him, Will Hart. And he saw that I was that low point in my life. He invited me to visit Rochester. And after a couple of times, I took that leap of change in my life. I moved up here, got very close to several people, this close-knit friends, realized that many of them are Toastmasters, and was encouraged to visit and eventually join. And it was there that I met, well, I knew my friend, my close friend, Matt Benedict. He became my Toastmasters mentor. And it was through that relationship that I grew confidence, not only as a speaker, but that I had a voice, something to share and to give to others. And after getting to that point, I realized that I can give back to other Toastmasters, upcoming Toastmasters, and realizing my role in this larger community. So I wanted to tell you that story to let you know that there's so many different ways to connect with people. And sometimes, like I said, we're not aware about the loneliness in our life, but there's ways to combat that. And the first thing that I realized is that we need to be seen. loneliness, it can live in the gap between who you are and the person that you present to other people. I think we're always having to put different hats on, sometimes different masks, depending on who we are at work, who we are with our family and our friends. But if you don't have that close friendship that really is walking alongside with you and that you could trust, loneliness can dwell there. So I'm incredibly grateful for my friendships, especially in the past 2 weeks when I was separated physically from people, and knowing I could really call on them when I needed to feel like I wasn't alone. And I was very grateful for that. I think the other way that we can learn to help aid in this loneliness is to grow as people and to give back. We have this great opportunity to grow our connection in this collective purpose that we have in Toastmasters. I shared my part of my story in my growth in Toastmasters, and how my confidence as a speaker grew this desire to give back to others. And so really, I know, and I've heard so many great things about this club, and I know that you have some great experienced Toastmasters, and to be able to see that cycle of giving back is so beautiful. During this time, many of us are looking for connection, and when it comes down to it, if we connect to who we really are, it's then that we can be open to those possible connections. I know in times like this, we might feel overwhelmed and not know how we can make this world a better place or even impact a change. But don't ever underestimate the power you possess to change one person's life through human connection. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Lou. It showed me how much you were vulnerable and you brought in a change to the world. This is the power of connection, you guys. Mr. Timer, give me a minute so everybody can give their love notes to share what they liked about Lou's speech and what he could improve on. Thank you, Manju. Our next speaker is Alex. I asked Alex what change he had brought in that brought an impact in others. He says it's a gratitude journal he has. He has been writing down and sharing gratitude that helps him focus on the positive in his life. We can sure all learn from that. Evaluating Alex is Alacera. Let's hear from Alacera what he's looking for in Alex's speech.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Alex is going to talk about a speech in level for visionary communication. So what I will be looking for is clarity in his speech, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, audience awareness, comfort and interest, and topic. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Put yourself there, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, our welcome guests. What does it look like to lead in 2020? And how big of a role does social media play in that leadership? Is it possible to Facebook wrong? These are the kinds of questions that I'm hoping to answer during my speech today. And the project that I've got is all about establishing a social media presence. Now, for some Toastmasters, this might be the first time that they log into a social network, and that's a great thing for them to be able to do. But what they're going to discover when they do that is that it's not as easy as creating a profile, adding a profile pic, and starting to create a couple posts. That social media, depending on which network you join and depending on what parts of it you get to be a part of, can be a very different place. But I want to talk about 3 things that social media has helped me to do and the ways that I use it to establish my presence in that space. So I'm going to talk about how social media is just a great way to stay connected with old friends. That's the basic premise. I have friends from high school on my Facebook. I have friends from college on my Facebook. I have friends from old jobs on my Facebook. It's all the folks that you gather up in a lifetime that if they stay connected on Facebook, you can stay connected with them and you can learn about the kids that they have, that they get married, that they move to a new place, they get a new job, they're growing in the world. And it's just good to see that from our old friends and to learn about their lives. And so that's one way we can use social media. The second thing is, and this is one that has been very important for me, letting folks know that they aren't alone. Through the last 3.5 years, with all of the craziness that we have had, whether it's child separation or all the disasters that have happened, the pandemic, but all of these different ways that we have felt the pain of the world, that letting someone know that they're not alone, I'm feeling this too, I'm going a little crazy too, that those kinds of experiences where we let each other know that we're not alone and we raise awareness about issues that we care about. That's a great way to use social media. And the last one is that you can build your influence and you can even persuade people, but you have to be careful because the dark side of that obviously is that it can turn into a gigantic argument, which is why a lot of people end up leaving Facebook or Twitter or other social media platforms because they get sucked into these enormous arguments. And to talk about those 3 things, connecting with old friends, letting folks know they aren't alone, and persuading, I'm going to talk about my experience with Facebook, which I've been on since 2008, and Twitter, which I just started last week. I know I'm like 6 years late to that party at this point, but I'm on Twitter now. You can find me, Turner in Rock. That's me, I don't even know how to talk about Twitter yet, but I'm going to talk about Facebook first. And the way that you build your Facebook profile so that folks will engage with you in meaningful ways. First thing, mix it up. Mixing up humor, stuff you're proud of, stuff you care about. That's the mix that I have found that helps keep people engaged and helps a lively discussion happen on there so you're staying connected with people in meaningful ways. Humor, stuff you find funny, stuff you're proud of, accomplishments, things that folks will congratulate you for, that's the feel-good stuff, and stuff you care about. The issues that you want folks to not feel alone in caring about. Second tip for Facebook is monitor and moderate. So when you have a post that goes up there and someone starts spewing hate, that's your opportunity to say, this is my wall, and that means you have to follow my rules. No hate on here. And you can just delete those comments. You don't have to respond to them. You can maybe type a little bit, but my wall, my rules, something like that, to let people know that the discussion on my wall is positive and building up. You don't want to delete every opinion that isn't aligned with yours, but you want to set up rules for civil conversation. And that creates some lively debate and can create a diverse group of friends, and it can help to pop bubbles that so many of us find ourselves in bubbles. And this speech is going way long, Mr. Timer. And the last thing for Facebook is just kindness is number one. Just focus on kindness and you'll be good to go. Now, I just joined Twitter, and this is an exciting story for me because, and I want to tell you how you can have a similar experience. Number one, identify your niche and fill it. What are you an expert at? And for me, it is eviction in Rochester. That's what I know. And so I focused on that. It's a tiny little niche, but it's mine. And so I can give my perspective on that. And then you find people adjacent to your niche. Are there people who are experts at eviction in Milwaukee? Connect with that person. Is there a person who is in the courts in Rochester? Is there a person who's reporting on news in Rochester? Connect with those people. And then you expand the conversation by offering your expertise to a place that's adjacent to your niche. And that's where all the brilliant things happen. When you take an idea that works here and you share it with this space that hasn't heard that idea, that's where brilliance can happen. And the exciting thing that happened to me is that on my third tweet, I got connected with Evan Dawson, who hosts a local radio show here in Rochester, and I got invited to be on his show. And I was on his show last Thursday, less than 24 hours before his show. He invited me on, and now I'm gonna jump on his show in another couple weeks to talk about eviction in Rochester, because that's what I'm an expert at. And that's exciting. So the end result of those rules on Facebook is I have a diverse group of friends that talk about lots of different topics and can learn from one another and not live in their little bubble of people who all think and believe the same things. My result on Twitter, I got on a radio show. That was pretty cool. If you use social media well, you can expand your influence in the world. If you use social media poorly, it's gonna expand its influence over you. You can shape your world, your relationships, and your opportunities by putting yourself out there. And social media is a tool to do that. Find a way to use it. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alex. A new change bringing in new opportunities. Let's all take a 1 minute to send love notes to Alex to say how we all liked his speech. Thank you, everybody. That brings an end to the prepared speech session. The second part of our meeting is our table topic session. Let me hand over it to Deb, who will be handling our table topic session for the.
Hey everyone. Sorry, my video is having some issues. There we go. Okay. Anyways, welcome to Table Topics. Table Topics is where anyone can participate, both members and guests. Sometimes the hardest part is just kind of putting your hand up to put yourself out there and answer a question. But to get us started, just like any fun game, there's rules. To start out, can Grant, our grammarian, share the rules of this game?
Thank you, Deb. Yes, rules. Word of the day. Please use a word of the day in your table topic speech. Again, the word of the day is enlightened. The first definition of that word is freed from ignorance and misinformation. The second definition is showing understanding, acting in a positive way, and not following old-fashioned rules or false beliefs. An example sentence of that word is, after listening to Bhakti's speech the other day about the history of anime, I felt a little more enlightened about the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. And we'll also have our timer, Mingsul, share our timing rules for today.
Okay. For table topic, each speaker have 1 to 2 minutes. When 1 minute has passed, I will show green picture. When 1 minute and 30 seconds have passed, I will show the yellow picture. When you run out of the 2 minutes, I will show the red picture. Then you have 30 seconds to give your speech. Thank you.
Thank you. And also everyone will be able to vote who they thought their best table topic was. You will have bragging rights and permission to pull out that sweet you've been hiding and trying not to eat this whole time of COVID. So you'll have permission to just go do it. Just go get the bonbons and enjoy yourself. But who would like to get us started? Oh, who's that in the corner? It's hard to... Omi for table topics. Who is that? I'm sorry, it's really dark.
It's Ozzy.
Jose, hi. Sorry. Apparently my eyesight is going. Okay, Jose. During this time of COVID, what has dawned on you?
Please. Wait, I think this should be better. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh, could you repeat the question?
Yes. During this time of COVID, what has dawned on you?
Like, dawned in the sense of pursued me?
Like what were you enlightened by? What have you noticed? It could be about yourself, someone else, it could be anything.
Okay, here we go. Do we have I have my timer here. I'm so excited to see everybody, guys. And though I think the thing that has enlightened me the most has been being alone. Now that both Alex and Lou have talked about loneliness in this time, this has given us the opportunity to reflect on the future, reflect on what have we been doing all this time, and whether or not the choices that we have made have been the correct ones. And he's giving us additional intro perspectiveness. Oh my God, I'm even making up words. This is amazing. All this time has given us opportunity to reflect, to get better to ourselves, to eat a lot. I've seen my sister and my mother eat as if this was some vacation. Then they discovered and realized that this was for the long run, not for the short run. They were like a donut away for them to get qualified as a roundabout by Google Maps, which was amazing. And there are other people who actually took advantage of it as I did, that we took this time to improve ourselves. Instead of losing our time and so instead of us losing our time and wasting it out there, getting influenced by all this negativity talk, we took that time to improve our skills and get better at it. And
that's it. I'm actually very excited to see you guys. I'm always super duper fired up for table topics. It's been a long time. I didn't know what to expect. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys around.
Thank you, Jose. So good to see you. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. It was all dark in your corner. Who's next? Gaurav.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. I was just checking my mic before talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Gaurav, who in your life inspired your period of enlightenment?
Uh, like there are. Yeah. Thank you. Should I start? Yeah. So there are like many people in my life whom I learn from, but the person who actually enlightened me was my friend Vikas. So he was we were in 10th standard, we were like school friends, but in 10th standard he used to also do paper checking of, you can say, 10th grade. He used to do paper checking for the lower grades like 5th or 6th to earn money and support his own education, whereas me on the other side would just take pocket money from my parents and just used to spend it. But and he was not bragging about it that he's learning some, like earning something out of it, but when I looked at him, he was doing multitasking at the same time. So when I looked at him, I was really enlightened the way he used to manage his studies at a very young age, support his own education during like the lower grades, and now I'm very much happy to see him when he's right now in Germany pursuing his PhD. And he was from you can say an economical, like his family was not that well, you can say well off with finances, but the hard work he put in without and overcoming that barrier at such a small, you can say, age, that was really a moment for enlightenment during at that period. And even I'm learning still from him, and always look forward to integrate, or you can say, some good qualities from not only from him, from everybody else, but that is my, you can say, inspirational model. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Ruchi. Hey, Ruchi. We have heard that laughter is the best medicine. What do you consider to be your best medicine?
Oh, honestly, food. I'm a little bit offended when Jose said his past his family has been cooking a lot, but that has been me. I have stopped myself from cooking literally by asking Preetham to do the meals sometimes so that I don't overdo it, because when I overdo, then I overeat, and then I stand up at the weighing scale and I'm not happy. So that's been my best medicine that has kept me occupied for the first 5 weeks as we were off from our work, when our school was still figuring out what are we going to do with the whole education plan. I was looking up at recipes, and now we even have some of the Indian channels memorized. Preetham and I watch recipes just for fun, and it also, Preetham has started following some recipes while he's cooking, so that's been great. I don't have to eat only what I can make. He can also make what I want to eat. So that's something great. And I have enlightened myself by I have been enlightened by myself by just seeing that I can follow recipes. I would not used to follow recipe. I would just mix things up, but then it would not turn out the way I wanted it to. And I learned my lessons a couple of times. And I bought those cups and measuring spoons and all those things. And I've been pretty good at it. So that's been my best medicine in these past 4 months. Back to Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ruchi. I think we're going to go ahead and do one more. Who wants to be the last? Sridhar. Hey, Sridhar.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. I think to jump off of Lou's excellent
Give me the
speech,
easy one.
what do you consider to be the most powerful resource in the world?
So what do I consider as a powerful resource in the world? I think learning constantly, doesn't matter at what age you are, is, I feel, is a powerful resource that anyone can have. So and that will keep you enlightened all the time. And the example that I can give is, recently I've been listening to this audiobook called Inner Engineering. But can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's a audio book by a Sadhguru. I've just finished few chapters out of it. There is some stuff that you can. It's very good things that the author has mentioned about improving yourself, and that book has been enlightening me in a good way. And I feel this is because I have this quest of learning. So I feel that the quest of learning is a powerful resource that anyone can have in their life. Over to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Sridhar. I apologize, my video is just being flaky. So we have 4 excellent candidates for the possible prize of whatever goodie they have been hoarding and saving away for a good time to celebrate. So first we're going to get a little report. Timer, did everyone stay within time?
Yes, everyone is on time.
Awesome. And Grant, did everyone use the word of the day?
Yes, every table topic speaker used the word of the day.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 names up in the chat box. And you can just send it to me directly about who you're voting for, and I'll go ahead and collect all those votes and give it to the Table Topics Master. And I'll return it over to our Table Topics Master.
I can do the polling for it if it's easier for you guys.
Sure.
The next section of our meeting is the evaluation section, where the speakers who had their prepared speeches get evaluated by their evaluators. It's a place where we all can grow from what they are, everybody, what people had perspective of their speech and what we all can learn from. Let's welcome Tanay to head the evaluation section.
Hello, everyone. So just like the table topics meeting, this section is also divided into 3 parts. And in the first part, we have evaluations of the prepared speeches. In the second part, we have evaluations from the feedback from the functionaries. And in the third part, I'll give my evaluation about the meeting. So let's begin with the first part, which is the evaluation of prepared speeches. And our first speaker was Preetham. And Preetham's evaluator was Matt Mack. So help me welcome Matt Mack to share his evaluation about Preetham's speech.
All right, thank you so much, Tanai. And everyone, we are always learning a lot from Preetham. I believe this is the first speech I've heard that is more or less like an introduction to a project. So it was shorter and it was like, this is a project I'm going to do. And so the speech had a very precise purpose, maybe a little narrower than some of the other speeches, which were really broad, such as inspire everyone or tell a story. This was a really focused point that Preetham had to accomplish in his speech. And so it could seem like that might hem him in, Preetham, it seemed like that might hem you in a little bit about how to give a speech creatively. But I did see areas of creativity. So you opened with humor, you opened with, now we say, can you hear me at the beginning? And so you got us to laugh within the first 20 seconds. And so that is always a skill to have in a speech, is to start, get some laughter in there, get some laughter going. You used visual aids, you showed us the old manuals, which were nostalgic for some of us, and that was strong. I liked how you repeated things have changed a few times. So you had a repeated phrase in there that kept it together. Really great strengths. Those were really excellent. I think your organization made sense. At one point you did have a phrase where you said, so what has changed for that is mentorship. And I think your wording got a little jumbled in there, and that's just part of being spontaneous in speaking. That can sometimes happen, but so a little grammar there to work on. And another area that I thought you could improve is something you're very good at is storytelling. How would you infuse storytelling into such a precise thing that you're supposed to do? So I think you could still do it. You could still infuse some storytelling into this speech somewhere, and that would liven it up a little bit more. But otherwise, great job. In review, you opened with humor, you used great visual aids, you had a repeated phrase which held it together. Work on some of the grammar and the spontaneous speaking, and always how to infuse a little bit of storytelling in every speech. Mr. General Evaluator, tonight.
Thank you, Matt, for that evaluation. Our next evaluator is Ajita, who is going to evaluate Lou's speech. So help me welcome Ajita.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you, Lou, for sharing this very wonderful and very powerful story with us. Just to go back to the title of the story, the pathway, this project was related to telling a story within a story. So it was telling a story which inspired you in a storytelling way, where you did a really good job, where you related it to a book and you picked up the stories from the book. I really liked the 3 points which you mentioned from the book, the 3 different types of loneliness, and how you experienced it when you were in quarantine and in your previous, in one of the previous scenario. I really like the way you kept broughting in instances from the book and trying to relate it, and at the same time deliver a message to the audience where they can take it and try to reflect on their own and improve, connect with people, try to overcome that loneliness. That was really good. And at the end, you also mentioned how you use Toastmasters as one of your social connectivity, social network, where initially you were very hesitant in joining, and then later you joined and you came up to that stage where you're trying to give back to the community by giving feedbacks or by encouraging people to give up speech, because you have faced those things previously where you had lack of confidence and you were hesitant in joining. So I really love the way in which you weaved the entire story throughout throughout your speech. One thing which I thought at the end could have helped is how you concluded your purpose, your collective purpose. You could have mentioned some point in the book, how the book was concluded. That would have given an overall perspective of how you related to that story and concluded your story. But overall, it was a fantastic delivery of telling a story within a story. I had a lot of takeaways from your story, which really helped me reflect on certain things. And I'm sure everyone else also enjoyed listening to your speech. So overall, it was a wonderful speech. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you for coming to our club and sharing this beautiful speech. Back to Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ajita, for that evaluation. And next up, we have Alasera, who is going to evaluate Alex's speech. So help me welcome Alasera.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Alexa, you did a wonderful job. I'll start with what you shouldn't have done and you didn't do it. So great job. Clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, audience awareness, comfort level, interest, topic, right on their heads as nails. And I really enjoyed how you managed to nest the rule of 3 within 3 as a nested loop. So that was phenomenal. Some area of improvement that I believe when you take them into account is to be more intentional about your gesture. Sometimes your words and your gestures were not in sync. So be more into control of what you want to say, and then the gesture just follows with it. You use if. When I felt like you could have used when to be positive intentionally about it, and use if when you wanted to be a little bit negative about it as well. And using the rule of 3 is such a phenomenal tool that I still remember about being connected, not being alone, and having the power to influence others, or using humor, or being proud of what you do and caring about the things that you share with. And the 2 examples of Twitter and Facebook and how to best leverage them. So all in all, the 8 nails, you got them right in the head, and looking forward to be enlightened by your next iteration, incorporating the next feedback. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Alasera, for that evaluation. And now we have completed all the evaluations of the prepared speeches. Now let's take the feedback from our functionaries. And I'll begin with a timer, Mingshaw. Mingshaw, can you give us your timing report of the meeting?
Of course. Thanks, Mr. General Evaluator. For prepared speeches, Aprita used 3 minutes and 12 seconds, but I think it's my fault. I didn't see his message before. The time for him is 2 to 3 minutes, but it can't affect his great speeches, right? Lou also did a great job. I love his story, but he used 7 minutes and 49 seconds. Alex did a perfect speech, except the time he used 7 minutes and 34 seconds. For table topic, everyone was on time. For evaluation, everyone was on time. Back to you, Mr. General General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mingshaw. Now I'd like to take feedback from our counter, Destin.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So the report for the counter was so overall it's very positive. Most of the speakers didn't have repeated words, but the most repeated words during the overall meeting was "and." So overall, it was fine. Most of the speakers were very aware of repeated words and filler sounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Destin. And now finally, we'll move on to the grammarian report by our grammarian Grant.
Thank you, Tanai. All of our speakers were very good, and I don't really have many areas of improvement for them. I'll start with speaker one, Pritam. I don't know if this was an audio glitch or not on my end, but there was a time in which you were saying something along the lines of choice between two options, something like that, instead of choose between two options. Again, I don't know if it was just my end or not, but just be aware of that. And now let's see, speaker two, Lou. Overall, you had great descriptions of loneliness. I think we could all really relate with that. And I really liked your final line, don't ever underestimate the power you have of a person's life through the power of connection. I really appreciated that. Speaker three is Alex. I really liked your use of the rule of three, as Alasara was saying. More specifically, you were talking about the things that you should do on social media or the things that you should post. And that is humor, stuff you're proud of, and stuff you care about. I really like that. Let's see, I don't have anything to say about the evaluators. Maybe I should listen more closely. But the table topics, Gaurav actually used a word of the day 3 times, so that's pretty commendable. And Ruchi used it, I would say 1.5. She used it once and then corrected herself, corrected her sentence and said it twice in the same sentence. 1.5. And that's going to conclude my grammarian's report.
Thank you, Grant, for your feedback. And now we'll move on to the feedback of the overall meeting. So the meeting went well. We started a few minutes late, but we are making that up by finishing the meeting early. At least that's what I think. And I like that when there were like some glitches throughout the meet, technical difficulties, like if there's a mic turned off or if the video is off, then somebody from the club would like just remind and take the charge and make sure that the meeting is going smoothly. Something that we could improve on, or some suggestions that I have is if can we make the poll thing like normal instead of like a suggestion through in each meeting. So if we can make the poll thing as long as we are having Zoom meetings, I think this would be a great idea that we make the polls for best table topics as a general thing. And lastly, if there's any last minute changes in the agenda, then would it be better if we send one more agenda on the day of the meeting, like on Wednesday, so that it's like a final agenda of the meeting. And that's all that I have. With that, I would like to hand over the control to Toastmaster Chitra.
Thank you, Tanay. One of the exciting part of the meeting is when we know who is the winner of the table topic session. Let's all unmute ourselves and give a drum roll for the table topics winner. Winner is Gaurav.
Yay!
Congratulations, Gaurav.
Thank you, Chitra. It was my first time, a bit nervous. You know me very well, so.
It was a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And at this moment, I would like to say that change is very vital in our lives. Bring in a change, step out of your comfort zone to solve your problems and miseries. With that, I would like to hand over it to the President, Hassan.
Thank you very much, Chitra. You really did a good job today. Thank you all for this amazing meeting. Thank you, Xavier, who updated the agenda. I think it was today or yesterday, I don't remember, which gave us the opportunity to have Lou as a speaker at our meeting. Thank you, Lou, for being with us and sharing this lightning speech. Just an announcement. Xavier would like us to take a survey. I think he will now share the link to the survey. We have just to answer to some questions about the roles that we have never played. which will help him like do the agenda for the upcoming meetings. Did you share? I would also like to hear from our guest. I think we have a guest. I don't know where is he now. Ankit. Oh, he's no longer there. Okay, but I would like also to have a feedback from Gurav. This is your second meeting, Gurav. What do you think about the meeting in the club?
Yeah, I liked the meeting, and equally I was on my nerves actually when I was like, oh, there will be a question coming up and I have to answer it. But yeah, so, and the suggestions and as well as the feedback is also too detailed, which I like it. So, and I always make sure to sit from the start to the end and listen everybody's take so that even I can incorporate something. Yeah.
I was muted. Thank you very much, Gurav, for your feedback. I hope you'll join us soon and become a member of the club.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So this is the end of the meeting. Thank you all, and I hope we'll have another great meeting next week. So now just take 1 to 2 minutes to answer Xavier's questions. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.